If there's one thing that anime community always debated about, is the definition of anime. We all have this feel for what it is, but this feeling is incredibly diverse among anime community. One may say it's just about art style, others may say it's just about animation coming from Japan, but there's no strict dictionary definition. That caused some debate among anime community about some titles, but they never seem to address the elephant in the room. Studio Ghibli. I'd like to talk about that in detail. It's fucking cold, so let's go. The start of Japanese animation is very much its own story, so we're not gonna focus on that. Our story begins few years post Second World War. Most of early animated movies from that time period were strongly influenced by occupation forces, and up until 1958 only shown in cinemas. 1958 marks the date of first Japanese television animation, called Moe's Adventure. And, later same year, first feature film, The Tale of the White Serpent, made by the one and only Toei Animation. Oh, Toei Animation, how important they were to us. They were the first successful animation studio founded by Kenzo Masaoka and Zenjiro Yamamoto, influential creators of pre-war animated cinema in Japan. Toei Animation had a clear purpose, to compete with Disney, but sort of steal from them. Let me explain. Okawa Hiroshi, president of Toei Film Company, was inspired by Disney's 1937 Snow White to become the Disney of the East. To further pursue this goal, Toei sent a research team to the United States to learn Disney's system of assembly line production in around 1957. They went on producing animated movies based on folk tales, but strictly oriental ones. In 1958, Toei asked the one and only Osamu Tezuka if his manga Son Goku the Monkey could be adapted into film. He went on directing the movie to a certain point, but he was denied his creative freedom to kill one of the characters at the end of the movie. So he got out, and made his own studio, and created TV anime Astro Boy. More on that later. Another notable figure of this time period is Isao Takahata, who, after graduating from the best university in Japan, joined Toei as director in 1959. However, it wasn't until 1968 that he actually got a chance to direct a movie. In 1963, another great figure was employed at Toei. Hayao Miyazaki enrolled after 3 months of training as an in-between animator. 2 years later, these two with Yasuo Otsuka made a pact together to finish Prince of the Sun, as they feared it might have been the last movie before TV anime took over the industry. And there was a reason for that fear. When Astro Boy was released, it became a giant hit in Japan, practically starting the anime boom. And it was really a great formula. Take the animation everybody loves and cut the cost of its production to absolute minimum to make as much screen time as possible. As you may guess, it was not an artistic choice, but a financial one. And there's one thing I can't stress enough. If you watch some clips of these shows, you might think they look worse, because they are older, but that's not why they look the way they do. They are just that cheaply made. Movies made by Toei many years before had the visual fidelity to compete with Disney. It's not like they couldn't or didn't know how. That quality was planned. It was their strategy. While all of this was happening, Miyazaki and Takahata had their minds deep into movie production. The movie in question is The Adventures of Horse, and it may be considered the first Ghibli movie. It was the first movie Takahata directed, with Miyazaki responsible for scene design, a view of something totally different from Disney and previous Toei kids stuff. The product of 3 years of production, Horse is a sign of artistic direction Takahata and Miyazaki were looking for, and so the movie is stunning. It was artistic, it was stunning, it was experimental. It wasn't commercial. But it's not yet the time for experimental movies. It was a total financial failure. And so, when the main focus of the industry lay within newly invented anime format, new studios rise, with a few examples being Madhouse, Shaft, Dean, and of course, Sunrise. With Tezuka releasing their first adult anime, the industry grew into a presentable format, and as the Japanese economy recovered from war, it is safe to say that anime was a thing, and it was growing. But Miyazaki wasn't having any of that. You see, his vision still lay within feature films, his feature films, not some TV anime. When he got to create his own piece, it really shows what he had on his mind all those years. When the money came in the early 80s, Miyazaki had the opportunity, and he used it well. Nushka of the Valley of the Wind was a sign of what would come from him. Everybody loves Miyazaki movies. That is his idea. His aesthetics is one that everybody can appreciate. His works are lovable and universally acceptable.
Nothing to fear. See? Nothing to fear. Right? You were just a little scared, weren't you?
You can really tell that this is the art that Japan wants to show the world, and what you would show to your mom. And this is completely unlike anime. Anime is fetishistic and obscure, and okay, I'm exaggerating, but just look at the difference in appeal. Ghibli movies are films with broad appeal. They have their specific aesthetic, yes, but it's still a broad one, not like anime, where visual language is so different from anything else and the topics depicted are largely unheard of in other media. Ghibli is always concerned about how presentable are their films for a wide, casual audience. Unlike anime, I mean, who would want to show End of Evangelion to her parents? Ghibli movies are aspiring to be the definition of classic Japanese animated cinema, and largely succeeded in that regard. The whole premise is so much different from what we are calling the anime, both in contents and the form of telling the stories. It's just way too noticeable to let it be as it is.